Live on YouTube.
Oh shit. So you mean like 30,000 people are gonna get a notification that, hey, they're going live?
Kinda. You guys are live on YouTube right now.
Wait, we're live on YouTube?
We're live on YouTube. I don't know that anybody's watching us right now, but maybe they'll be able to see this later on.
At some point.
This is raw, uncut WebDM.
Yeah, we're gonna give it to you raw, like the ODB. Doogie doogie doogie.
So we're here in the D20 filming new episodes. We wrapped up our Warlock and Sorcerer episodes. I
Finished the class. Finished
the classes.
Those are done. They're coming.
And so, I don't know. Like we've had a blast. I don't know, but there's not. There's something that we kind of talked about in the Sorcerer and Warlock episodes that we didn't want to dwell on too much, but at the same time, there's a lot of good fodder for D&D in it, and that is a TV show we both really liked.
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell.
Right.
And we're going to get right to that. But since we are live, we have our producer, Travis, over here monitoring this. If you have any questions about D&D, about life in general, about our personal hygiene,
right.
What Jim smells like.
Yeah.
It's roses and patchouli.
Yeah.
No, not
It's
really. He's not a hippie.
hint of cardamom.
Yeah. But
Cardamom.
if you have anything you want to talk about, ask the question away. Travel related to us. We're only going to be on here for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. We'll see how it goes.
Maybe no one will show up. Maybe a lot of people will show up. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
find out. But until then, we're going to ramble on about this TV show that we enjoyed.
It's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. It's based on a book that I tried to read and just for whatever reason couldn't.
Yeah.
And
You're
so,
more sorcerer that way, and less wizard.
I'll be honest. Grad school killed my desire to read anything ever again. That's just the perfect truth.
What, reading 5 books a week?
Is just it kills my desire to read. I haven't really read a book since then. That's a shame. So, but this TV show, Stranger Norrell, it's set in England during the Napoleonic Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about a return of magic to England.
Of English magic.
Respectable English magic. And so, first off, if you're a fan of the Napoleonic Wars, which I happen to be.
And who's not?
And who's not, really? All right. And so it's got this great historical feel to it. It's a fantastic feel. It's the fact that it's about a wizard and a sorcerer who are trying to work out their relationship with each other. And the jealousy that the wizard feels for the sorcerer, and the fact that the sorcerer feels like he's not accepted by the wizard because
he doesn't understand it.
He doesn't understand it, and so it's a great story in that respect. But in terms of being good fodder for Dungeons and Dragons, there are some things in the show that I really like and would love to see incorporated more into D&D. And first off, one of those is like sorcerers. This guy, Strange, is the sorcerer.
Yeah.
He just knows magic.
He gets a spell.
He buys a spell from a street vendor. Has it.
And casts it.
Right.
And it works.
He doesn't have to study. He didn't have to spend long, grueling years learning magic. And so he of course apprentices himself with Norrell, who is the wizard in this tale. And who's sort of a isolated, insular,
miserly,
kind of like
greedy. All of his books.
We could call him an introvert now. I'm spitting everywhere. And so it's the rivalry between the two of them. The rivalry between the two of them is great, and it can mirror the rivalry between wizards and sorcerers that might exist in your world. Some worlds there's no difference. They're just one different way to approach magic versus another.
Yeah.
In other worlds, maybe there's a professional rivalry. What I loved about it, though, is how they go about casting spells.
Yeah.
Taking a book off the shelf, being able to read it. It's not just one spell. It's so and so's spell to do this very specific thing.
And the entire book.
And the entire book is a spell.
On one spell.
Is on one spell. And so I can imagine incorporating these ideas into a Dungeons and Dragons game. And so it's like, okay, this is my spell book. This is the spell book for such and so the Pyromancer's Fireball spell. And it's a 300-page tome where this one wizard poured over all the intricacies of the Fireball spell and the dimensions of it and the dynamics of it. And they're going down to magical theory and everything. And if my wizard casts a fireball using this book, that fireball is maximized. That fireball has an extended range. That fireball has all these different things that you can do with it. It's not just a generic fireball.
Yeah.
It is everything you need to know about how to alter the parameters of this spell.
Yeah.
And so I think like all those things that surround D&D spellcasting that get pushed to the side. No one likes to use material components. Yes, it's a huge pain in the ass.
Right.
And we've played in games where we were required to keep track of every piece of bat guano and cotton wad.
Playing D&D on survival mode.
Playing D&D on survival mode.
I have 4 loaves of bread, a piece of bat guano, and a piece of silver
Right.
ribbon.
What can I do with that?
What can I do with that?
And so I think that, over the years that the material components for Dungeons & Dragons have been pushed out because players found having to keep track of those things tedious or unfun, or just wasn't working out for them, or it was just boring. I don't know why. And so it means to me that a lot of the things that make D&D spellcasting interesting have been just pushed out to the edges to the point where it's like I got my component pouch.
Yeah,
that's all I need
for the sake of expediency.
For the sake of expediency, and that the way Norrell and Strange adds in all those weird things that surround magic.
Yeah.
They need their their silver bowl with the water that's poured in it, and how they go about it in order to scry on something.
Yeah.
They have special potions and concoctions that they drink before attempting magic to focus their mind and to bring about and induce the certain when Strange captures the essence of madness from the cat lady, and you realize what he's about to do, and you're like, oh, this is pretty sweet.
You're gonna make yourself crazier.
You're gonna make yourself crazier in order to accomplish your goals, because you need to be in a state of madness. In order to cast this spell, it means that there's things you can do without needing to change a lot of the D&D spellcasting system to make it seem more magical.
Right.
And right now it's just like, oh, you pick a spell, you cast it, and that's it, you're done. But what if you had to be in a certain state of mind? What if in order to cast fire magic, you had to be angry? You had to not just like a little pissed off, but just like furious to summon the magical fire into being.
All right.
You have to ask.
Hey, we got a question.
I'm gonna interrupt you.
Okay. What's up, Trav?
I'm gonna interrupt you. We have lots of questions. We got a few
Oh my goodness.
people showing up, and let's start with. We've had so many that we can't possibly get to all of them. Is there any place we can find an outline for your Spelljammer campaign? I'd love to be able to run that with my group.
Outline for it. As far as the world that I randomly rolled and built, no, there currently isn't. I have a lot of notes. They're all half finished and crazed, and I suppose that I could get that together. I think that we are trying to get a website going.
Getting a website going.
Getting a website going, and
good work has been done on the website.
And so hopefully we'll have be able to present some more of that, and I can tell you what, I'll work on getting my notes together in a more presentable fashion.
Do it. Jim, how do you
Yes.
find people to play with when your friends don't want to play with you?
I use meetup.com for the most part. That's my preferred method to find other players. I've used it for almost all the groups that I've played outside of my sort of friendship group, if that makes any sense. I've had a lot of great experiences with Meetup, without getting into too much about my personal life, I've sort of made a move to a new city. We mentioned it in an upcoming show at some point, and so I've used Meetup even now to find a new group to play with while I'm also playing online with my old friends. It's all right. I encourage everyone to play with as many people as you can as possible. Even if it's just one-offs, and playing with other people is a great way to stretch your legs as a DM, to experience different types of gamers and different play styles. So that's what I do.
I love it. Can you guys talk for just a second about the swashbuckler? We missed it when we talked about when we did our rogue show. You guys
We did miss the swashbuckler,
You guys
didn't
have
we?
any thoughts on the swashbuckler?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I really enjoy the swashbuckler. I love the idea of the swinging in from the chandelier, because you get advantage on acrobatics checks, I believe.
Man, I don't have circles with me, and I haven't looked up for it.
I mean,
So,
I
yeah,
haven't played one. We've had Josh's brother played one for a short time, but the fact that you can Use your sneak attack one-on-one with someone, so you can actually duel someone as a rogue.
Right.
Survivability is a little whatever because you still have rogue hit points,
You
but
still have rogue hit points, but you've got Uncanny Dodge, which is an amazing tool
Yeah.
for survival with a rogue.
and you're probably dex-based.
You're probably dex based, so your AC is going to be respectable. I really like the Swashbuckler because it's up until the Swashbuckler, there's one sort of combat option for the rogue, that being the assassin, and the Swashbuckler gives you a different way to be a combat rogue.
Yeah.
In my mind, I have an idea for like a noble swashbuckler / battle master who's sort of like a professional duelist. What do? I fight people with, this is my rapier. That's what I do. So I really like the Swashbuckler. I think it's a strong option for an already strong class, and would hardly recommend.
Well, and also they get the fancy footwork is the thing I was also trying to think of. It's basically mobility light.
Right.
You just got to attack somebody and you can get out of there. You don't have to use your bonus action to dodge.
Right.
Or to disengage.
Right.
You can do those 2 attacks and I'm gonna back away from you
Just
now.
get out of there. And so it gives you an opportunity to dual wield. In case your first attack misses, you can get that second one with sneak attack, which is why you're dual wielding as a rogue in the first place.
Yep. We like it.
Cool. So, what is the best 5e module to start with as a new DM?
Wow. Okay.
Best module for a new DM.
Best module for a new DM. I would probably, if it were me, I'm tempted to say that Princes of the Apocalypse is a good start for a new DM for the player module. Now, Princes of the Apocalypse is not the best in terms of just, it came out early in 5th edition's life cycle. I think that, say, Curse of Strahd is probably the best adventure that Wizards of the Coast has put out so far, but Princes of the Apocalypse has a lot going for it for new DMs. It offers a limited sandbox environment that you can read up on, and you don't have to know everything about the Forgotten Realms. You just need to know about this one little plot. It offers a lot of dungeon environments, which for new DMs means that you don't have to worry about any outside influences. It's just what's in this room, what's in this corridor. And at the same time, it offers factions within the dungeons. You can play off the different elemental evil cults against each other. There's a lot going on. I might also, as a sort of a secondary recommendation, say get the starter set. If you're a new DM and you've never played the game before, or you've only been a player, the starter set with the Lost Mines of Phandelver adventure is designed for you, for the new DM. So that might be another option. And then it's easy to transition from Lost Mines of Phandelver into Princes of the Apocalypse. In the appendix of Princes of the Apocalypse, they give a lot of options for how you can do that. And that would be my recommendation. And then once you maybe get your get some confidence, start feeling like you can branch out, it's pretty easy from Princes of the Apocalypse to say, well, I'm going to figure out what's north of the play area, or east or west, and then start making up your own adventures. Whereas some of the other published adventures, it's a bit more difficult to do something different than what's in the published manual.
Cool. How should I prep for new games? Just make this one quick. What are some things you do to prep for games as a new DM?
Prepping for a new game as a new DM.
For like, I'm assuming
Or prepping for just your
any
game
old game.
Any
Prepping
game.
for any old game. I gotcha.
as a new DM.
Well, you're the newest DM between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say anytime you're prepping for a game, for me, I like to know what my PC's motivations are. Okay, because if they want to do a whole thing, I'm not going to do something that is completely the opposite in theme, direction, whatever.
Right.
So you're going to want to know what they want to do. Second, it's the hardest thing for me is figuring out how much can I throw at my players without it being either too overwhelming or too underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so figuring that out is still kind of difficult for me.
Right.
oddly enough, or well, I guess it's not odd, but I've learned a lot from Jim doing this show, and I think I've gotten a lot better at that. But just prepping, if you're prepping a big set piece, make sure you got your big bad. Have however many waves or types of waves, however many waves of those types, keep that open. If they just start wrecking through the first few, go ahead and throw a few more waves of little guys before they get to the big bad. But also, don't over prepare. That's one thing I did early on, where in my Spelljammer campaign, I started prepping each NPC in the town, a brief sentence on their history and their motivation. So then I realized I was using 10% of that.
Right.
So what I then started doing is prepping this male character, his whatever and motivations, and then when they went to the bar, that male character with his whatever and motivations became the bartender.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you prep some NPCs, 4 or 5, and then whoever they meet, that's who that becomes. That's how you hook them without over preparing.
Over preparing. So for me, I think those are all really good points. Knowing what your players are going to do, knowing their limitations, what they can and can't take on, are pretty important to prepping for a game. In terms of like what you can actually do, my mantra is, if it's something I don't want to risk improving, then I'm going to prep for it. So that's anything that's dealing with the game's mechanics. If I've got a complicated monster fight that I know is probably going to happen, I'm going to review those monsters. If I've got an interesting, say, I know the party is going to be dealing with this particular problem or this particular investigation, then I'm going to think through it and think of all the different ways they can interact with it and just have an idea of what the moving parts are. I know that's a little vague, but as you get more confidence as a DM, your ability to improvise will increase. And what you'll find in Pruitt's case is that you might have over prepped for a bunch of sessions, but never throw any of that away, because that means as you grow as a DM, you find that you have your own personal log of NPCs and monsters and scenarios and just bits that you can throw in, adventure seeds and locations that you can then draw on, and means that the longer you DM, the less you need to prep. So when you're starting out, anything, the mechanics, anything that you don't want to be vague on, and anything you don't quite feel comfortable improving, that would be my starting point for what to prep for.
Any advice for how to make combat more interesting for larger groups that where combat takes a little too long?
Making combat interesting for larger groups where combat might take too long.
So I'm assuming we're talking groups of greater than 5 players, or like greater than double the number of players in terms of the monster side. There are some things you can do, and sometimes we do them and sometimes we don't. I would say that number one is to make sure that players are looking up their spells and abilities before it's their turn.
Yeah.
And not cracking open the book when it gets to them.
Right.
And enforce a strict time limit. You've got 30 seconds to tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah, you're in the middle of combat.
You're in the middle of combat. Do not go looking up the spell right when it's your turn. It's like, okay, it's your turn. What are you going to do? I would also make sure that as a DM, you are framing at every possibility. You are saying, okay, so-and-so just had this happen. They're fighting this orc, this dragon, this monster, this person over here, so that the player knows right at the beginning of their turn what the situation on the battlefield is, so that they're not having to go, what's going on over here, what's going on over there. This is especially important if you use Theater of the Mind. It's the DM's job to make sure there is no confusion. So it means after every turn, after every player's turn, the DM is recapping, this is what just happened, go. And then using that momentum to keep the game moving forward quickly. And then when it gets to the DM's turn, no lollygagging. You can make sure that that isn't the case by either pre-rolling and just having a list of D20 rolls that you've already rolled out. You can have it by letting the players roll some of the dice, just to kind of get that out of the way. If you're running a ton of monsters, it could take you a lot of time to roll and count up dice. So getting some of that out of the way, or using a dice rolling app to kind of deal with large die rolls, can be a way to sort of speed that up.
What is your favorite Unearthed Arcana so far that you've seen?
Favorite Unearthed Arcana thus far?
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I was really partial to this week's Sorcerer Unearthed Arcana. I know it just came out, and it'll be a while. It might be a while before we can really go dig into it in depth, but I really like the options for that. The Barbarian Zealot was really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the sorcerer, it seems like they're really honing in on what people want. Because
I hope so.
almost all of the sorcerer options, it's just like every single one of them, when I read something, do I immediately think of a character for that idea?
Yeah.
And with all the sorcerer options, I immediately thought of a character idea as I was reading them.
Yeah. In terms of my favorite Unearthed Arcana, I think that probably the Eberron one, which was the first Unearthed Arcana, even though the Artificer in it was kind of meh, and the Warforged in it was kind of meh, I liked the promise that Unearthed Arcana Eberron article held.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's probably my favorite. Eberron is a real personal favorite of mine, and I hope that it eventually sees the light of day in 5th edition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say probably right now my absolute favorite would be the Psychic Order.
The Awakened Mind.
The Awakened Mind,
Yeah.
or
Or
Order
Mystic,
of
or whatever it's called.
Mystic, yeah,
Yeah.
it's Mystic now. Just because it's one of my favorite recent characters. And we haven't talked about it yet, but I like the new Artificer. We haven't butted heads on that yet, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
But yeah,
Sweet. So yeah,
It's pretty cool. Can you guys discuss Yawning Portal?
Yawning Portal.
So this is the Yawning Portal would be, I guess, the new book that's going to come out here in March, and it's sort of the springtime offering
Yeah.
for 2017. I don't know. I think on the one hand, it is exactly what I personally have been hoping for in terms of a module. It's not an overarching campaign. It's a series of smaller adventures that you can break up and use as you want. They are not the modules I would pick to be included in them. There's some 3rd edition modules in there that I don't have a lot of experience with. There's a module from the 5th edition playtest that's ending up in the Yawning Portal. I find that there are some earlier edition modules that I would rather have seen in there.
Yeah.
White Plume Mountain is an interesting adventure, but it's also gonzo crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like it was just some guy's submission to TSR of like what he could do, and it's just a random, weird, like utterly disconnected kind of dungeon, and really is the epitome of the senseless, wacky kind of dungeon that sometimes characterizes dungeon crawling. I'm curious to see how they update them. I'm curious to see what they do with Tomb of Horrors in 5th edition. Is it going to be as deadly as its reputation suggests?
Yeah, is it going to live up to its name?
Is it going to live up to its name? Are they going
not
to...
a tomb of inconveniences.
Not a tomb
An
of
inconvenient
inconvenience,
tomb.
An inconvenient tomb. It is a tomb of horrors. Your stuff will be taken. You'll be teleported naked to the beginning.
Yeah.
You'll have your gender and alignment changed, and then
Yeah.
at the end you have to you have to solve the dungeon.
Yeah.
Basically, so I don't know. I'm excited about it because it means that they are that they're trying new things, that they're wanting to do new things with the game, and that not everything is going to be a big overall adventure path style release. That said, I am curious. I heard last year that Pendleton Ward was working with Dungeons and Dragons on something, and I loves me some Adventure Time, and so I was kind of hoping that this would be the one that Pendleton Ward worked on, but maybe that's going to be in the fall, and we'll hear more about that here in the summer.
Where does arcane magic come from? Is it the natural forces of fire, earth, water, and air? Or is it something that permeates existence?
Well, I mean, I think that would be based on the setting that you're in. I mean, some would say that it comes from the elements and all the
Yeah.
spirits that inhabit them. Some would say that it is a force that moves through us, that binds us. Oh, sorry.
Wait.
But I don't
yeah,
know.
it really
I mean,
depends. So I think, if you're talking about Forgotten Realms, which is the baseline for a lot of players, it comes from the weave, which permeates the world, and which there's a goddess and gods and goddesses that govern the use of the weave and how you do it and what you do with it. My personal opinion is that and what I like to do when I homebrew is that arcane magic is the underlying sort of infrastructure of existence.
Yeah.
And anyone either with sufficient time and study, or who is especially attuned to arcane magic, or who takes the quick path to power, can manipulate these forces. But magic is a part of the world and not separate from it.
Yeah.
It gets weird because they're like the divine magic of druids versus the divine magic of clerics, how those differ from arcane magic. But I really like seeing arcane magic as being not separate from the world, but a part of it, if that makes any sense.
Everybody's talking about blind sight.
Yes.
Any thoughts on blind sight?
Yes,
versus stealth?
Yeah, blind sight is not auto detect.
Yeah.
It is still possible to stealth past something with blind sight.
Yeah.
It requires the player to come up with a plausible explanation for how they're stealthing past it, but it's not auto detect, which I think a lot of people might use it for. It just means that you don't have to rely on sight in order to detect something within that radius.
Yeah, whether it's a magical sense or a like Daredevil kind of with a combination of sound and air pressure against the skin.
Right.
However you want to see that.
Right.
You can still sneak past. I mean, you're just you don't need light. You don't need to see.
Yeah, you just don't need to see. And so, if you're dealing with a player that wants to sneak up on something with blind sense, it might be harder.
Yeah.
It's going to be more difficult for them to say cover their scent or to move absolutely silently, and that's going to
vibrate the floor.
Not vibrate the floor. It's like sneaking up on something with tremor sense. But I think that then puts it on the player to come up with a plausible explanation for how they are stealthing up to something with blind sight. But it's not an auto detect, and I wouldn't treat it as such.
Do you think new DMs should stick to classic classes and races, or allow their players to use others, such as those out of Elemental Evil?
Classic players, classic race and class combos.
I think it's a path of least resistance for new DMs to stick to the classic stuff.
Gotcha. So
I mean, yes, but
I think that the priority should be on what the DM finds that they can handle. And so if they are worried about introducing elements into their game that they're like, I don't know what this does yet, or they're not familiar with it, or they don't own the book, is another big one, then it's okay to say, you know what, guys, I'm keeping it basic today.
yeah.
And for this campaign. And if you have a player who's like, no, I gotta play a deep gnome, whatever, then you just tell them politely, like, listen, maybe the next time that's appropriate, or let's try it this way, and as I become more comfortable with the game, maybe add it in.
Yeah.
So I think really what it is the basic rules are designed to ease you into the game, and as you get more comfortable with it, you add in more and more options. Some people like to jump in the deep end, and they go, we're going to have feats and multi-classing and a bunch of magic items and everything from Unearthed Arcana.
Yeah.
And I think that new DMs would be fine that way, but it is going to be more challenging to them.
Well, and never forget that, I mean, a certain onus falls on the DM, and it is their prerogative to state, we're going to play the game this way. In our current Strahd campaign, Josh came up to us and said, no variant rules, no multi-classing, no feats.
No rolled stats.
No rolled
standard
stats.
array, yeah.
We were using standard array, even though we've almost all of our campaigns are rolled. Like, he just wanted to do, because he wanted to see what absolutely basic 5th edition looked like. No extra books.
No extra nothing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm an Asimar, so he
Right.
allowed that,
He allowed
but
that.
still, no other variant rules.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and we try it out. And so I think you're hitting on something that it's the DM's job to come up with a campaign, and the players don't have to accept it. And it needs to be okay for a player to go, yeah, I'd rather do something else, and to not participate in that campaign. But the DM is the one that has to come up with everything and has to think it up. And so it should be perfectly okay for you to say, yeah, there's some options I don't want in the game because I'm not ready to include them in the game.
Yeah.
Nice. I thought this one was kind of interesting. We'll take kind of a complicated one, and then I think we're going to get out of here. So my party is running a heist and one of the members is going in disguised as a foreign dignitary. How often should I have him roll deception?
Ah.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Here's my thing.
Uh-huh.
When you get in, they're probably going to need to look for some kind of identification.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
a deception roll.
Sure.
Okay? If you're a foreign dignitary, there's probably not going to be a lot of people there who know who you are.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
just walking around and talking, you're probably not going to need to roll all the time.
No.
Now, if you talk to a government official who is versed, like that ambassador to that
Right,
area you're
right.
trying to fake, yeah, you're gonna, because they're gonna know something.
They're gonna know something. I think for me, this is one of those moments, and it's sort of like you could say, how often should you roll stealth when the rogue tries to sneak into the castle?
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of the let it ride philosophy of dice rolling. And the more often that you require a player to roll the dice, the greater the chances that they're going to fail. And if it doesn't require a die roll all the time, then it's just like, give me one roll. And unless circumstances change,
Yeah.
you do something different, something bad happens, then we're just going to let that initial die roll ride. So that means that, of course, the players are probably going to try to get as much out of that die roll as possible, have a bless or a guidance up, have a bardic inspiration, trying to get advantage. That's okay, particularly if you're just, they just get that one roll. And so I might say, give me an intelligent deception roll for the disguise instead of charisma deception. For the disguise itself, the physical disguise. And then after that, give me one charisma deception roll to just determine the general demeanor that you have during this encounter. Let's say you meet you meet the ambassador who would be in the most advantageous position to spot your disguise. I might have you do one more deception roll for that specific encounter.
Yeah.
But I'm not
Because
going to
nobles-
require a bunch of rolls.
Yeah.
Then you're just asking the player to fail.
Well,
with
yeah,
that.
yeah. The longer interaction you have with any kind of system, the more likely it will fail.
Right. And so yeah, that's how I personally would do it. Is just letting it ride. If that first die roll goes really bad, then that tells the players that they either need to change something about their plan.
Yeah.
Come up with something, gather another resource, another advantage to themselves, to get to make a separate roll, and maybe you make that roll in secret, so that they don't know, and you just play out the results of that roll.
Yeah.
Some players might really might balk at that, and they want to know the result of the roll. But I think it's perfectly acceptable for the DM to say, "Hey, you don't know what other people think about you, unless you're rolling in there with a detect thought spell on."
Yeah.
Which, of course, D&D. Why wouldn't you roll? in
Why
there with
wouldn't you have the
thoughts?
detect thoughts on, so they know you know? Because they invite you in. Guess what? They could have found you out and like, oh yeah, come on in. Come
Right.
into this room. Why are
This room.
why are the windows barred?
Right.
Don't worry about it. We have people trying to break in all the time.
Right.
Click.
Click.
All right, so final question, because somebody asked one that I actually am curious about, because I've thought about this myself, is how do you feel about the DM making perception checks on behalf of the players rather than them making them? And I would add to like passive checks. How do you feel about the DM making passive
How
checks
do,
rather
how do
than the
we
players?
feel about the DM making perception checks for the party as well as passive checks? I would say this: there are no checks to be made unless the DM calls for them.
Yeah.
Players do not get to decide when they use a skill. The
Well-
DM calls for a skill roll,
Yeah.
and the player uses their applicable skill. So in that sense, the DM is always the one calling for rolls.
Well, I mean, the player can go, I want to check this wall out, and that would be a perception or investigate.
Right.
In that case, but what they're talking about is you walk into a room, do they notice the secret door on the wall?
Yeah.
Everybody make a perception check. You know,
Flag
the
by
highest
flag.
roll was a 10.
Yeah.
Never mind.
You don't see anything. In that case,
You know.
it is perfectly fine for the DM to make those rolls
In secret.
in secret. And that is what I personally, and when I DM, I don't use a DM screen because I don't like the barrier between me and players, but I do sometimes roll dice that have no purpose, just to confuse the players.
Yeah.
And I sometimes roll dice that are a handful of them. I might roll 5d20 and some d6s and some d4s, and I'm only looking at the d20s. And so you can do things like that if you roll in the open. Some DMs just roll in the open always, no secrets.
Yeah.
For things that you want to keep secret because you don't want the players to have information that their characters wouldn't otherwise have access to, then I think it's perfectly fine to roll in secret or to use some sort of
Well,
method that conceals why you're rolling in order to get that result.
but if you don't want to roll, I mean, that's why the passive perception and passive investigation
Right.
system is there.
Is there.
Because, I mean, if they don't say we're on guard,
Yep.
looking for stuff, it's just passive. You're
It's
walking
just
down a hallway and the rogue just has an insane passive perception because he took observant and whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's going to notice that secret door. Well, then, yeah, you slip a note to him. And guess what? You felt a breeze walking by that.
Yeah, and so DM notes are a great way to do that. There's a lot of different ways that you can pass information without alerting others. Obviously, a note's a bit extreme, or you can just modify your descriptions.
Yeah.
How you,
But if you do notes, make sure you give one to everybody and just put, like, I love you, or
you
can
can
you
do
make
that.
me a
I mean,
sandwich?
there's a lot of different ways you can do to fool the party if you don't want
Yeah.
them to act on information they shouldn't have.
Right.
Guys, we've gone from 450 to 500 to 530. We've got a lot of people watching.
Hey.
So say goodbye. Why don't you guys take just a second to close this thing out? You're gonna tell the people to subscribe. You're gonna tell the people to check us out on Facebook. Why don't you tell the people about where they can find us and what's coming up over the next week or so?
Okay, yeah. We're finishing up our filming this weekend. We're going to be getting back to going back to class here this next week. Also, stay tuned around YouTube. Might have a little bit more content for y'all.
Got a
Just saying.
surprise for you later tonight.
Maybe
So
have a
Gotta
surprise
code
for you
it.
later
We
tonight.
gotta code it out.
Just coding. Coding is all. But head over. Go ahead and head over to Facebook. Like us over there. Sometimes we post stuff over there that's interesting or whatever. I know it's Facebook and it's lame, but I'm kidding. It's a great organization.
Yeah. What do we have coming up for him, Pruitt? What have we been filming today?
We've been filming a lot of stuff. We've been finishing it. We finished out our class shows.
Yeah.
We filmed some more monster shows.
We've got some more monsters, and we're digging into some weird, sort of not often used monsters. We got a show on mimics coming up.
Yeah.
We got a show on plant monsters. Golems have been requested. We got some we got
Oozes
those
and
coming up.
jellies.
Oozes and jellies. So we're dealing with monsters that don't often get used, but
Yeah,
can be
but
fun for campaign.
use them, because who doesn't love a snot monster dripping from the ceiling and taking your fucking armor away?
Right.
I mean,
Who doesn't love that?
who doesn't?
And then we've got some more interesting shows coming up, some DM tip shows, including a show where we preview some of our favorite game that's not D&D, and I guess you'll have to stick around here in the coming weeks and figure out what that one is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks so
Well-
much to everybody at home.
We love you.
We appreciate you, we really love you, and thank you for coming out and tuning in live.
Yeah, keep on rolling.